Zee used to do a lot of cool stuff with Geo, and then he's quit Geo, and then now he's kind of like dabbling back in Geo. Unfortunately, he's not here today. He's actually in a remote island somewhere organizing a bikini shoot. And this island happened to have, it's off the grid. So we kind of got talking about Geo and stuff, and then he was like, hey, you know what, I'll do a talk, and then we can really incept this, and he's setting up a satellite feed and stuff and so on. So I don't really know what he does, but he tries to explain the technicalities to me as a designer, right? He's like saying, how can you do geolocation thingy and stuff and so on and so forth when you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have GSM towers and stuff, and you're basically in a tropical island that's always on the verge of getting a thunderstorm. So he's like, the way we do it is that using UHF radios, we can triangulate and shit. I mean, those of you who are familiar with this sort of things, you learn this in primary school, what's wrong with you? Yeah. I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. So would you like to do a satellite feed, piggyback on his client's satellite bandwidth and then do a live demo over here? So yeah, we can do that. I'm going to set up, and I'm going to be surrounded by bikini girls, and I'm going to do the talk. And obviously, as the day closes by to the event, things were starting to look very grim, and he's like, okay lah, bro, I'll just do a recording for you lah. So I'm going to be playing back his keynote with his audio recording. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. Because I literally just only got it just now via satellite feed. He's basically pushed a 35 megabyte file up the satellites and then beamed it back down. I don't know how much that costs. What's it cost to relay 35 megs? I don't know, whatever. So he's not here tonight, but he's gone and rushed this out in the middle of this remote island, recording what he can. And then being called oh, another boat has arrived, go there and set things up, and then go to this TED, and then still manage to squeeze out this presentation. So he said, let's just play the keynote and let him know how it went. Let's give him a round of applause. You can see I'm very frazzled because I'm like, oh no, can we get this? Can I get this? Okay, so let's do this. I have no idea.
Geolocation in the wild. Hi everyone. So today I'm just going to talk about geolocation in the wild, and I'll explain in a little while what I mean by that. So maybe a little bit about me first. Who am I? This is Zee, and send this presentation over satellite from an island in Malaysia. I'm a former radio engineer with Ericsson, and gave up playing with radio waves, and now I'm just happened to be building a bit of web applications and supporting some film crews, doing some networks, and doing some rural off-grid applications. So geolocation is not new at all. It's really old. It's as old as life on Earth, really, and it's about knowing where you are. It's not something that's been invented in the last 5 years. And various geolocation techniques that just off the top of my head, I've done no research whatsoever. But the first oldest way is actually just a reference to known location. It's the most ancient geolocation technique used. It's just a way of saying that I'm left of the big mountain, or I'm south of the Yellow River. This is a reference to something that you already know. And reverse geolocation is kind of the same sort of thing. And there's timekeeping, which is a way that early mariners used to plot longitude and to measure how far east or west that they have actually gone. And this is actually the driving force behind the first mechanical clock that was invented by John Harrison, and the origins of the Greenwich Meridian time system for longitude. A close cousin of that is actually the date reckoning system. And date reckoning is just a way of inferring your position based on last known coordinates, and plotting along that your bearing and your speed, and then just estimating where you will be in a certain particular time. So it's very commonly used in the submarine navigation and also in some GPS equipment in cars. The other triangulation method is the one that we kind of just most associate with geolocation, and that's trying to estimate your location based on your kind of relative distance estimated from signal strength from a number of beacons. And these beacons could be in space, or they could be on the ground as a form of like 3G or Wi-Fi cell towers. And they kind of just estimate where you are based on how far you are from various beacons. And the future of geolocation, I think, is something that measures displacement, and you have like a reference or known location, and it measures how far and what kind of movements you have in a three-dimensional axis, and kind of estimates where you will be based on these movements. So what's wild? I started off with saying like geolocation in the wild. So the thing that's wild is the location. So I'm sure that the other presentations will be about like geolocation in a very, very what I call tame environments, which I'll get into later. But it's in a location that is where communication isn't the issue. But unfortunately, backhaul communication is the key to any geolocation system, because you get your location, and then you need to send this information to somewhere else, like a server, and that requires some kind of communication channel. So this communication channel kind of is dependent upon the environment. So you have the environment which is kind of tame, which well, if you have an urban environment, there are various challenges, of course, but I call it a tame environment because there's plenty of 3G and Wi-Fi coverage around, and plenty of options to offload the data to. But if you have like a geolocation in a wild environment, and what I mean by wild is in the middle of nowhere where you have nothing at all, no fiber connection, no phone lines, nothing. You've got no internet whatsoever. And in this kind of scenario, the most obvious thing to look at is actually a kind of electromagnetic spectrum. So electromagnetic spectrum is just a geeky way of saying radio wave. And a radio wave is an electromagnetic wave that kind of moves in space and through time, and it's got various wavelengths and various frequencies. So the higher the frequency, the shorter the wavelength, as you can see in this chart here. And you have like buildings you have like wavelengths the size of buildings, and you have wavelengths all the way down to the size of an atomic nuclei of like gamma rays, and we all know about gamma rays being the origin of the Hulk, and that's so stay away from gamma rays. But like visible light as well is a form of electromagnetic wave, and it's no different from the wave that's being emitted from your phone. It's just a bit of a frequency difference. So electromagnetic waves, the higher the frequency, the shorter the wavelength, and the smaller the antenna. So you have in your pocket like some GSM 3G phones that are operating at 900 megahertz or 2 gigahertz, and they have a very short wavelength, but you have like the old TV antennas that we used to have in UHF, VHF, and they're operating at a much lower frequency, and hence their antenna is larger. So there are various kind of propagation properties related to these kind of like different antennas. The shorter wavelengths tend to get blocked very easily, but they have a very high bandwidth. And the longer wavelengths kind of penetrate objects, and they kind of bend around obstacles, especially the Earth. They kind of follow the curvature of the Earth, and they can go very large distances, but they're very, very low on bandwidth. So you have like, say, cellular networks that are operating at 450 megahertz, that's like 67 centimeters wavelength, down to the 2100 band, which is 14 centimeters, which is kind of what's in your mobile phones right now. They're very directional, they have high bandwidth, but they haven't got a very big range. I mean, the 900 megahertz band kind of goes a few kilometers, but compared to the other lower frequencies, they don't go very far. Then you have satellite systems that are operating on a variety of bands, and they use like C-band and Ku-band for commercial communications. Very high bandwidth and data rate, very directional. But it's easily shadowed by like things like trees and cloud cover and rain, and it's very large, and so it's not very practical for mobile usage. And if you're from the 70s and 80s, you remember the times of the ham radio, the shortwave radio, where these enthusiasts would like chatter on their little radio devices and send information across the air on shortwave radio. It's quite popular at the time because it has a very wide range due to ionospheric bounce. So on this kind of frequency, the ionosphere in the atmosphere, a layer of charged particles, actually reflects this wave. So you can actually direct it into the sky, and it goes quite far and hits this ionosphere and bounces off and travels around the globe, like, you know, you're kind of just reflecting it around the Earth via the ionosphere, which is pretty awesome. And then you have the VHF and UHF bands, which are mostly associated with TV and radio transmissions, also used in walkie-talkies and consumer band radio. And then you have the really low frequency stuff, which is, as I explained earlier, the lower the frequency, the longer the wavelength. So if you can see, like, you know, it starts from 30 kilohertz to 300 kilohertz. That's like a range of 10 to like 1 to 10 kilometers. So you can have like an antenna array the size of several football fields that you can see below, that is mostly used to communicate with submarines because they can travel around the globe and can also penetrate the water of the sea, and so be able to reach like covert operations under the water. So an example of wild deployment. So this last few slides actually deploy kind of like saved just hours before now, and that's just me deploying systems on this island, which I can't disclose because we're having an international shoot here. And we're using this system to kind of track our marine boats that are being used to ferry participants of a game show to and from islands, and we need to track their movements and their location at all times for safety and insurance reasons. So we have installed like satellite systems that link all the way back to France. We just installed these systems like 2 weeks ago. They are KU band systems, 3 of them, and we are load balancing it using a custom-built PFSense firewall. And this satellite is going to be used for the production internet use, and also for backhaul of positioning data from Malaysia to France. Now, that's all fair and good if you're going to transmit all the positioning data from the headquarters, which is where we are right now. But we don't want that. We know where the island is. We need to know where the boats are. So how do we get the positioning data from the boats? And what we've done is actually using UHF. So we've deployed like lots of UHF radios, walkie-talkies around the island for the use of the production crew. And you can see like these similar sort of radio devices are installed on the boats with our GPS antennas, and these GPS positioning is being sent over UHF bands, like walkie-talkie bands, and being sent to a server where they're then kind of like digitized and encoded and sent via satellite back to France. So they are being tracked all the way in France. So this is just an example of how you really need to think about like backhaul issues whenever thinking about a geolocation system. So that's kind of like the conclusion that I want to make from this very short presentation. So no geolocation solution is complete without fully considering the backhaul communication requirements, and you need to kind of build around this these little parts of the puzzle. So yeah, thank you very much for listening and paying attention, and I'm gonna have to rush back to production work. Thanks everybody in KL. Bye.